Today we're going to look at some of the new tools available for editing localities. But before we do that, first of all, I'm going to show you a trick which is useful if you're working on a smaller screen, as I've set it up now for this video. So if you go to More and then click on Device Settings, what you can do is you can change the second option down, Content Alignment, from the default, which is Center, to Left. And if we now save that, you'll notice that the window gets thrown off to the left hand side, which gives you a lot of space on the right, which we will now show you what that's for. Okay, let's look at a region. Let's go for Uruguay, for example. Click on the page. Now you see we now have this quick navigation bar on the bottom, on the right hand side. So we go to the bottom with the localities in region, click on that, and we go down to see our localities. What we want to do today is we want to check how these are set up, whether these are set up correctly, whether we need to update them. So, okay, let's go back to the top again. And there's a new tool in the edit menu for those who've got edit access called Region Health Report. If I click on that, you'll notice here that there are certain fields that we ideally should be completed. Now the first field here we've got is the type of locality. Now these all have been set correctly because they are a department is the terminology that's used for this political level, and it is correctly set in these cases. Now don't worry too much about these odd ones here, because those are just odd localities which haven't been placed into the correct part of the hierarchy. That's something we can do later. Now then we need to see whether we've got a boundary assigned to the region or not. Then we can see whether there's any foreign language versions of that locality string available, and there aren't in this case. And this last column is how many localities are claimed to be within these particular departments, but the coordinates show them as outside. At the moment there's none, which is good. These other columns we'll get to a little bit later. Now, coming back to the coordinates and the boundary here, you notice I put a date on here, the year that it was edited. Now this isn't a golden rule, but generally those that are edited earlier, 2016 and 2017, are poor quality and the boundaries are not very accurate, and we want to replace those. So what our job is going to be doing today is going to go through systematically and replace these boundaries with the correct ones. Now how do we do that, you ask? Very simple. Click on Edit. We're going to the Locality Editor. Now you'll notice some changes immediately. We've got this quick navigation on the side, and we've also got these things here which are two buttons, which I'll show you later. But let's start with a procedure on how I would work with these. So the first thing I would do on these regions is go down, just double check that we've got the type of locality set correctly. It's a political administrative division department. Yeah, that's right, and we can check on Wikipedia to make sure that that is the right definition. Now we have none of the other information field. Now have a look at this boundary here. Now it's a bit sort of wavy, it doesn't look very detailed. If we zoom in and look at it, it's sort of just a curve, and if you compare it with the boundaries that are shown behind on the Google map, you'll see it's pretty inaccurate. You see, this is meant to be the border between Brazil and Uruguay, and it's just an approximation at the moment. Now that's a big problem, because if we've got a locality that's sort of pointed, you know, somewhere here right close to the border, we could believe the system might think that it's actually in Brazil when it's actually in Uruguay. So we need to get rid of that boundary, we need to replace it. So what are we going to do? We're going to click on this new tool called Search for Region Boundaries, and in the toolbar here it's Boundary Search. So we click on that. Now what this now shows is it tells us the boundary within our system as it is compared to the other boundaries. Now at the moment it looks great, it's that everything fits in neatly, there's no gaps, but we know that this boundary is no good. So actually we also therefore know all the other boundaries are no good either. They all need to be replaced. So what we do is we click on this search button and we'll see what comes up. Now, oh, big surprise. It's only come up with an item in Peru. It's not come up with anything in Uruguay. How do we deal with that? Well, first thing we can try and do is we can try and remove the word department and try and do another search. And there we go. So in OpenStreetMap, it's just stored without the word department. Not a big deal. Now, we can click on this boundary and double check, is that the right one? And it's replaced it, and it seems to be approximately the same shape, but if we go in and look at the border in more detail, you can see, yes, that's a much better match than the previous one. Of course, now we've got a very poor match with the other regions, but that will be fixed as we replace each of the boundaries as we come along. Now, if you click on one of these others, maybe you think it's this one, not this one. Click on that. Oh, that's just a little city. So if you zoom out, you'll see that's just a tiny part. So the city has that boundary, but the region has the greater boundary. So that's the wrong boundary. And we can see with the other boundaries, these grey areas are the neighbouring or other boundaries at the same level. So we can see that that's definitely not the right one. Now we can zoom out to see everything. We can zoom in just to see our little region. Let's say, for example, we clicked on this one by mistake. This is a nice region here, but actually if we zoom out, oh yeah, it's a completely different continent, so that's not what we want. So let's go back to the right entry here, and that's definitely correct. We now do select and exit. Now, what it's done now is it's thrown us into the next page, which is the language management. We'll notice a few things it's done. Firstly, we've got the fact that it's filled in from the region that you selected. It's been able to pull out the information about the correct Wikipedia page, the correct Wikidata link. Now this is an important ID which is standard between multiple sites, including Wikipedia, OpenStreetMap and ourselves now, so that when a region changes name in the future, it will still keep the same ID. And the OpenStreetMap ID, which is pulled in from that region we just selected. Now what it does is it now pulls in the language versions that each of these sites have into a table here. Now at the moment we don't have anything in the mindat.org column because we do not have any current languages set for this other than English. But as you can scroll down the list here, we see there's multiple different versions in different languages. In this case, OpenStreetMap doesn't have any other languages listed. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but what we will do is we'll run through this. We can use an option called auto select, and that automatically picks what it thinks is the best option from each of these cases to put in. Now generally that is the one which is the shortest, because we don't want the long version political names. In general we want the shorter versions if they exist. So we notice here in Turkish we have, it's taken the Wikipedia name rather than the Wikidata name, but not really a big deal. If we said actually we want to keep the Wikidata one rather than that Wikipedia one, all we need to do is just click on that cell and it's selected that one on. And if we said if we think that you know, different ones, these are the same, but it's down to whichever one you want to choose. Okay, so we made a couple of changes here, and now we can click on use. And what it's done, you'll notice it's filled in all of these fields here. Actually that was done previously when we selected the polygon, and now we have all of these language fields filled in here for all these different languages. Now what we can now do is save that, and if we click save and next, it will actually go on to the next entry within the same hierarchy of the political regions. So in this case we go to the next department. I'm going to I'll show you things a different way around this time. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to language import, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool here which allows us to find the correct Wikipedia page. So let's click on that button, the search button, and we have in our window here the Wikipedia page. And what we can do here is we can read through the text, make sure that this actually is the correct page for the region we have. So the Department of Colonies is south of Uruguay. Here we go. Perfect. So this is the correct page. But say for example it wasn't. Say that we had to try and find it a different way. We can go, let's search for Russia for example. Search. Oops. Come back to there, let's click on Russia. See, every time we click on a link in this Wikipedia page, the window here, the page name updates here. So we search the Wikipedia within this window here until we find the correct page for the region we want, and then we can select it. So let's go back to what we wanted. We can click on this at the top here, and that refills it in. This is the right page, so we'll select the page, and then again it gives us the option to fill in the languages. And you notice in this case we do have a couple of options from OpenStreetMap, which we didn't have before. So let's do auto select and use. All this does is it selects them automatically and puts them straight into the page, so it just saves one click. So click that and they're all in there. Now we have all this data here filled in. We still need to go and fix the region though, so let's go down to the boundary search, search this. We know we couldn't find it before, it's the same thing as before. How I'm going to show you a different trick. One thing you can now do, if you can't find it, and this is often the case in countries where English is not the primary language, that you can't find easily the region you're trying to find if you're typing it in English, but you can often find it if you type it in the native language, which we've just installed. So if we click on that little globe, it comes up with the lists in all of the different languages that we've installed. So here we are in Spanish. So, well, that's just for fun, let's just try it in Russian. Indeed, it's actually found it. By clicking on the Russian name, we found the correct entry. Click on the link, and there we go. You can see it's essentially the same area, but it's been updated to fix the problems with the previous boundary. Select and exit. So that one's complete. Remember, at this point, we haven't saved anything to the locality. We still have to click the save button, which is this one here, or if you're looking at it more traditionally, the submit button at the bottom of the page. But in this case, we're again going to go save and next. So let's show you again quickly how we do this. New locality. This one doesn't look like it's this is a mountain, so this doesn't fit into our current structure. Can we find this mountain? The fact that it's being put into this hierarchy probably means we've got to do some fairly detailed digging to put this into the hierarchy. So we're going to leave this one for now. Going to go to the next one, another department. Okay, so let's go straight to this. How do we do it quickly? Boundary search. Delete the word department. Search. Find this. Second option down in this case. That's good. Select and exit. Auto select and use. Save and next. Boundary search. Delete department. Search. Gotta be careful. There's one there from Mexico. Here we go. Uruguay. Correct. Select and exit. Auto select. Save and next. So you can see things really can be quite quick if you're doing it this way. If you try a few of the regions like this and it's working, you found a routine as we have. So you see in some cases it's better to do the language first and then the boundary, particularly in places, I don't know, like Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan. In other places you do the boundary search and then the language input after. So you try a few, figure out which is the fastest way to do it, and then you can speed through them really fast. So boundary search, select, auto select, save and next. That's how simple it is. Now let's go back to our regional health check and reload, and we'll see what we've got. So now we'll see for the ones that we have updated now, the boundaries are being replaced with the 2019 versions. We have 55 or 56 language versions for each of them. We still have no bad localities, which is good. And now we've got these fields here showing that these links are put in place. Now these links are really important for the future because they allow us to make sure that as these things change, we can update these automatically, or at least flag them to say these ones need to be reviewed in the future. rather than having to go through everything as we are now and just or just waiting until somebody points out that our boundaries are wrong. So that's a very quick look at the tools that we have available very shortly, and I'm very excited to have your feedback, and if you have any issues or any problems, then please contact me and I'll be happy to talk you through it. Thank you.